Hi, it's been a while. I'm sorry. Life has been crazy and mental illness is mental illness. But I'm back and there's something that I've wanted to talk about for a little while. And those that know me, this will be no shock. If you're new to the channel, firstly, welcome. Secondly, how did you find me? Um, but I was on my other show, The Yaoi Shelf, which is a boys' love podcast, and we started talking about Supernatural, Doctor Who, Sherlock. And while I've always been fairly open about liking Doctor Who and hating Sherlock, Supernatural is a weird one. And I want to discuss why my relationship with Supernatural is so tenuous. Spoilers for the whole thing. I'm spoiling everything. If you are not caught up, I'm super, super sorry. But, I feel like it's important to say spoilers for everything. Now, you may be shocked that I like Supernatural. And again, if this is the first time you're speaking to me or hearing of me, or you've really only known me in the last too many years, then yeah, it probably is shocking to find out that when I was in high school, I loved Supernatural. Me and my then best friend had OCs. We watched every episode. We very easily associated into roles. Uh, I was obviously Dean while he was obviously Sam. You know, it was really the perfect show for who we are. Now I'm getting ahead of myself because I think it's important to go over a little overview of Supernatural as it was in the beginning. Because the beginning of the show is easily 20 years removed. That's an important point for later. The start of the show, I remember Supernatural starting when I was 14 years old. At the time of this recording, I'm 32. Supernatural ended just a couple of years ago. I think actually just a year ago. Time is a flat circle. Needless to say, the show has been going on for too damn long. But the basic synopsis of Supernatural is Dean and Sam Winchester are brothers, and they are hunters. They hunt supernatural shit. What does that mean? Supernatural shit. Is it a succubus in Florida? Sure. Werewolves in Illinois? You betcha. Vampires in Oregon? Yup. Them and their mystical car. The car is not mystical, but it feels mystical. That's another point we're going to talk about later. Are all throughout the continental United States, excluding Hawaii and Alaska, and our territories, because budget, though the series was mostly shot in Canada. And it was at first essentially grittier Scooby Doo. It was Monster of the Week, Mystery of the Week. There was the start of some overarching plot lines, but really it was Scooby Doo. And at the time, being 14, I was fine with it being Scooby Doo, especially because Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki were exactly what 14-year-old Amanda was attracted to. So I was fine with them on their dumb Scooby Doo adventures. I stayed fine with their dumb Scooby Doo adventures for many, many years as they continued to introduce characters like Crowley, who is the best, Gabe, who is there, the women, and fan favorite Castiel. Now, I could have a whole other video about Castiel, but we're not going to do that yet. So really up until, I'm going to say, The mid part of the series, it's Scooby-Doo mysteries with some overarching plots. But just after the introduction of Castiel, a major thing in the series changes. Now there's these huge overarching plot lines, and you can tell that there's a change in the writing staff. Not a physical one, but an emotional one. Sam and Dean die every other episode. Sam is dead for a lot of various seasons. Cass is an overpowered, literal goddamn angel. Crowley is still the best. Gabe is there. The women are there too. But for the most part, it stops being Scooby Doo and tries to be Buffy. And that Supernatural was never meant to do. I also think it's important to say, around the introduction of Castiel, the fandom also changed radically. I'm not here to say that parts of the fandom were not already prone to Wincest or shipping between the Winchester brothers. That is not something I condone, but I'd be a fool not to mention it. There was a decent amount of the fandom that was convinced that Wincest was a thing. Now introducing Castiel made things quite different. Cass is an angel. He has no humanity in him. But in having no humanity in him means that someone has to teach him humanity. The series has chosen Dean to be that person. We're going to sidebar here to talk about Dean Winchester. Now, at the start, Dean openly flirts with male and female characters, knows some gay slang, knows particular gay bars. There are timestamps to all of this stuff. So a headcanon of bisexual Dean Winchester had been floating in the wind really since the start of the series. Now, with that being said, let's pick back up Cass. So, remember that potato sack of an angel? Yeah, we gotta teach him human stuff. Dean is the one teaching him that. So everything that Cass knows about human pleasure, about things that are good, about things that are bad, are coming from Dean. They spend the most time together. Sam and Cass spend almost zero alone time together. Dean and Cass, lots of alone time together. In one of the episodes, Dean shows Cass porn. Because, that's a bro thing to do. That's a totally no homo bro thing to do. So Cass really becomes his own character, with defining characteristics of liking pie and being a cinnamon roll because Misha Collins is amazing. But there was a very obvious idea that there was something going on between Dean and Cass. That's how you get the ship name Destiel. Now, Destiel's endgame was a phenomenon. We were convinced. They kept throwing more and more examples at us in the fandom of them being close, of them being willing to sacrifice for each other. And that went on for another 10 years. Now, Supernatural eventually had to end. And to say that the final season was, checks notes, a hot fucking mess, is an understatement. And here's what I'll spoiler alert one more time. We get to an episode, the episode before the last episode, where there is a choice to save some kind of strange magical halfling child that Dean and Cass have essentially been raising. But to do that, a choice has to be made. And Cass admits that he's always had feelings for Dean, even saying, "I love you" to Dean. And for breaking the cardinal sin of no homo, he is banished to super hell. He goes to super hell. He is banished to a realm that is far from God's love and light. It is not hell, it is not heaven, it is not purgatory. It is its own separate pocket dimension of hell, or nothingness, essentially. Cass is a literal angel who served God for essentially thousands of years. and the sin of loving Dean Winchester damns him to super hell. Now, that would be something if Dean were to react. But, next episode, cut, Dean doesn't say anything. He ignores that Cass just said, I love you, and that he essentially evaporated. And we have to move on to the end of the series. Needless to say, Tumblr rose from the dead briefly, with fangirls, including myself, screaming into the unfeeling void that our ship was canonized, only for it to get blown up in the harbor immediately. Fuck you, writers. I also think it's important to mention that writing decision was indeed a choice. The writers and creators behind Supernatural never were able to read the room. They always wanted their dumb, gritty show to be a dumb, gritty show watched by straight white men, when really their fandom was overwhelmingly young, queer people and young women. It was not the Chad dude bros who were watching Supernatural. It was people like me. And that blatant misunderstanding of your fan base and that spiteful feeling towards your fan base is how you get Destiel canonized, only for it to blow up in everyone's face. Now, there's more about the series finale that has me literally angry, including the title of this video. Cass goes to Mega Hell for having gay feelings, but at the end of the series, Dean dies eventually, and Sam dies of old age because I guess he's boring. And when Sam gets up to heaven, there is Dean, and the car is there. The famous Impala. Carry On My Wayward Son plays one more time. The car goes to heaven. Roll credits. To say that we as a fandom and we as people and just we had feelings about this is an understatement. Cass has literally served God for too many years, and being gay is punishable with death. But the car goes to heaven. Supernatural to me will always feel as the most emblematic of what happens when a series doesn't understand its fan base. I think even worse so than Sherlock, which I didn't think was possible. The contempt that the creators and writers had for fangirls is palatable and obvious. And that contempt led us to an absolute train wreck of an ending. It's sad. I cosplayed as Castiel several years ago. There's a famous photo of me taking a picture with a Crowley, a Cass, and a Sam. And we were all trying to, get in together for the photo. And I remember saying, oh, Sam doesn't need to be here. And the photo is just all of us laughing because, that's how the show treats Sam. Is he doesn't need to be here. I loved Supernatural. I still want to love Supernatural. But that contempt that poisoned the show made it hard to love. So when I look at things like Super Hulock, which I still think is batshit bananas crazy, it feels like there's this weird disconnect because I've been very honest about loving Doctor Who. I've been very honest about hating Sherlock. But I usually stay kind of quiet on Supernatural. It feels almost dirty now to admit that I once really cared about this show. But here I am, laying it all out on the table. I did once care about Supernatural, but unfortunately, the car went to heaven and killed all of my hopes and dreams. Hopefully soon, we'll talk more about the implications of the series sidelining Sam and Cass. But for now, I'll see you in the next one.